Okay.
What would you say to him today if he was just starting out teaching?
Just starting out teaching? Well, I would, if I could, I would say, hey buddy, you are in for a great ride if you only knew what was coming. Because I had no idea what was coming. And I started in 66, 67, never dreaming what it would become and what it would be. Yeah, you're going to have a great ride.
We set our hearts on rock and roll when we were boys, then banished ourselves from their world. We placed our faith in all that beautiful noise, then swore we'd stay close to the bone. We made sense of the world with two guitars, bass and drums.
I was over at Don Darrow in February of '77 to borrow some equipment for something we needed at Kimball. And as I was walking down the hall, I was hearing some rock and roll going on. And I thought, oh, what's going on down here? So I headed on to the auditorium, stepped into the side door, and I saw the choir set up on stage, saw their sound system, and I saw Mr. Hartsoe looking at me like, and who might you be, and why are you in my room, kind of look.
And then going into the choir room, of course, it was, like I said, it was just fun. I don't know another word. It was fun. It seemed to be really energetic. There was a lot of good energy there, and the people that were there seemed to be good people. Also, remember then that the music was very cross-cultural. They did fun songs that were pop songs. They did the traditional things that Mr. Hartsoe did. They also did some spiritual things, and that was all part of the curriculum, and it's all valid music.
That's what was great about Pop Concert was other people would come into the choir, and it wasn't just a cappella choir. It was people from band or even people who had their own bands outside of school, and they would play their instruments, and we would all applaud each other and be there for one another too. So that was the beauty of Pop Concert, because you had all this talent and nobody felt they were better than anybody else.
Okay, so this stage right now is blank, is empty. But when it came time for Pop Concert, it had to have risers, it had to have drums raised up, and it had to have a sound system set up. And the sound system would take about a dozen people, take them a couple, 3 weeks to learn how to do it. And then when they set it up and took it down every concert, it was the key thing, because without a creative sound system that could get everybody close to mics, we couldn't do it.
Right, yeah, the first time I stuck my head in Mr. Hartsoe's room down in the auditorium and saw what he was up to, I didn't realize that in a few years I would be part of that. And once I did, and Rick explained his vision to me, I took it on as an ongoing challenge to, knowing we didn't have exactly what we needed, but let's make it work as best as we can. Let's see what we can do to improve it over time. So it became like about a 23-year labor of love for me. So
I think that it is the exception rather than the rule, like you said. I think that it takes a real effort on the part of the choir director or whoever's in charge to really put something like this production together. You got to have a PA, sound guys, lighting guys. You have to arrange songs for a choir, and then you have to make provisions for solo artists to put their own bands together and play a song that they want to do an audition of it, and then actually perform it in a concert. So think about all those steps. There's a lot of different layers and all that, and so Rick was passionate about that. That was something he wanted to do. So I think had he not done that, then it would have been 1 or 2 years and out. It would have been a little kind of folk concert with a couple of real kind of low-level songs and then done.
Well, we get on stage with our robes and a piano. We call it Pop Concert. We sing 7 songs, and a couple of them are really popular type songs that are on the radio. And the 200 or so people in the auditorium really dig it, really like it. And that was the beginning.
Well, I recognized that when I was in high school in Ferndale, we had some opportunity to play with a Pops concert, but it wasn't on the grand scale that I recognized at Dondero. So I could look at these students back in the '90s when we were living in Royal Oak and watching these concerts and recognize how excitable and how interested they were in playing these songs. You could see the passion and you could see the excitement in their playing, and that was a little different.
What's that?
Once we got rolling, and once we started seeing what could be done, instrumentalists particularly would come on the scene out of the woodwork. I wouldn't even know where they came from, and they would come and they had to get a tape back in the early days, and then later on a CD of the songs that they had to learn. So they'd come and do that in October, and then we start rehearsing in January. And year after year, I kept wondering, when am I going to run out of talent? When am I going to run out of kids that can play? Year after year, there was always somebody coming new. Some kids that would play like one song when they were a sophomore. By the time they're juniors and seniors, they're playing 4, 5, 6 songs. And the development, you could watch it happen. The growth happened year after year. And that happened all the way up to the last year of 2006.
So we went and were blown away. Could not believe what we were seeing on that stage. From the individual performances to the big group performances. And I sort of murkily remember a huge finale where everybody on stage was playing and singing at the same time, and might have been some kind of a montage of songs or something, but it was amazing. And walked out of the auditorium that evening going, God, I mean, why can't we do this at Kimball?
When I was working in cable television in Madison Heights at Continental Cablevision, which was the first cable company in Oakland County, it was during the franchising days, and so we wanted to show different communities what a public access electronic video production band could do. And I had known Rick Hartsoe and the Pop concerts from when I was a teacher in Royal Oak in the 1970s. And my students had done slideshows to accompany a number in the past. So I thought, what if we did a video? So we took our very brand new mobile production van with 3 cameras and a switcher and a soundboard, and we set it up to tape the '82 Pop concert. It had a couple special effects on the board where you could take one color and turn it all orange or pink or blue or green, and we thought that was very fancy at the time.
When we lived in Royal Oak, we watched the community access. It was informative. We were looking for political things. We were looking for, things people talking about in the community. But more importantly, what was exciting to us was the entertainment that we would see with the Pops concert. I enjoyed that because I remember from my experience as a high schooler trying to get involved in something like that, and here I recognized how important it was and what a great opportunity these high school students had to to play songs that they liked, maybe songs that they didn't know they wanted to learn. I thought that was great.
Well, the least we can do is we can ask the people in charge of the music program if they would support us doing something like this. So we went to those teachers, and they summarily just dismissed it. We're not going to do that here. That's not what we do here. There's no place for that in the school. That's stuff you can do on your own time. And I thought that last phrase, this is something you do on your own time, I thought, well, that sort of gives me an opening here, or at least an idea here, that we could actually put something together on our own at Kimball. And I started recruiting people and to perform, and then started recruiting other people to do arrangements for the songs, because most of the kids who were involved in this could actually read music and had played music for a while, and but I made a mistake, which was that I never, at the end of the day, got permission to do this. And we staged this after school one day in the auditorium, and the teaching staff just screwed into the ceiling because we had done it without their permission. I don't think I got called to the principal's office, but it was clear that Jeff, don't ever do that again, because you didn't have permission and you've broken all the rules. Now, the thing was, people had a gas. People just loved it, and tons of kids showed up to see this show. And I think we did it at the end of the school year, my junior year.
When I was talking to my nephew Ian, who's the youngest, he was showing me the scores, and I could read the music. And I learned to read music because of Hartsoe, because Hartsoe put it in our heads and tested us, and tested us and tested us to make sure that we knew more than just singing in choir. And, you know, I'm proud to say that I was one of the few that got 100% on the test back in the day. But they were hard tests.
As everybody in the school knew about the 10-page test, because everybody in acapella talked about it all the time. It was the ultimate test of your musical knowledge. It was a timed test. Each page I did twice to time it so that if you knew your stuff during the amount of time that I would do it twice, you would have plenty of time. Each page covered a different thing. One page would cover the names of notes and the function of accidentals. There would be a page for key signatures, one where you write the key signatures, a separate page where you name the key signatures. There would be a page of rhythm where you translate rhythm. I called it translation when you were actually writing the numbers and the sub numbers. One anda, or one e anda, or one e anda, two e anda. That became very important, to know how to translate rhythm. You had to learn how to write it, then you had to learn how to count and clap it. But the written test became the standard of, do you really know your stuff? And if you could pass, and in fact, if you could ace the 10-page test, or in mixed choir, in freshman choir, the 6-page or the 5-page test at their level, then you had a good handle on what I call music fundamentals. It was it was only a part of music theory. I never said that we taught music theory, but it was certainly a big chunk of music theory that I called music fundamentals.
I don't know for fact, but I would bet that if other schools were interested in doing this, and it didn't materialize, it might have been that there were some people at the top that just said, well, this is not something we want to support. You know, every band director is probably in favor of musicianship and having students play and perform, but you got to take time at the school, you have to have space at the school, you also have to have the community behind it, or else you're just performing for the students. And maybe that's enough. But I think if you wanted to take it to another level like Dondero did, you need to have infinite support.
Hearing and seeing what was going on at Dondero was hugely motivating for me. You know, putting on the stuff at Kimball, or being a part of the group that did that, that was more, well, this is just what I do. This is an expression of what it is I want to do. And you know, I think if the program had been more organized, I think people would have learned to be more professional in their pop music careers if they had those, you know, following high school, because there was a discipline that I saw on stage at Dondero, and an organizational mentality, and a real aesthetic in terms of a performance and putting on a show, all of which, you know, goes into being a successful performing musician. You know, I think if we had had that at Kimball, it would have better prepared people, you know, for ultimately doing that, if that's what they were.
We made sense of the world with two guitars, bass and drums. Fell in love with the girls with two guitars, bass and drums. I remember
nothing transcribed. And so that means for 4 years, we started this thing and got people's attention in a very, as you listen to it, you know, Music to Watch Girls by Guantanamera, Wendy, Charade, Shadow of Your Smile, Up, Up and Away, Georgie Girl, What the World Needs Now Is Love, Sunny, Windmills of Your Mind, Spinning Wheel, but those songs, although later on, if we would have thought about doing it, we would have laughed. You know, in the 90s, we're going to do Music to Watch Girls Live. Exactly. It's just laughable. But nobody was laughing then.
One of the things I liked about Rick's selection of songs was, you know, he would choose things that were challenging vocally. Some of the chord structures in some of those songs were not your usual, you know, simple 3-part harmonies. They're pretty intense.
The Todd Rundgren song, Hello, It's Me, I had a road map in the music, and there was a DS, Del Segno, and it went back to the sign, and you don't move on to the coda until after you've played through the sign one time. You hit the coda, you go to the coda. Well, the guy that we were playing with completely missed that, and he went right into a key change, and we found ourselves in a big train wreck, and we had 2 different halves of the stage playing 1 half step apart from each other, and I just said, stop. You know.
When we first started, I knew nothing about sound systems, and we put enough money together to get 12 mics, and for the choir, and like 3 mics for instruments, and eventually we needed somebody to do something about running the sound system. First couple of years, I had students do it. A little while later, the band director at the time, Richard Perkins, decided, after we talked about it for a while, that he'd take a shot at it. And so he used to sit down in the front rows, where we would put a 4x8 platform, run a bunch of mixers and an amplifier, and he was the sound operator at the time.
Thankfully, Mr. Mike Miller always provided us with an audio feed. We'd take it from the board. We'd either get the house feed if we were lucky. I think Dave Krofchek or Mike would provide a sub mix that was for recording. And when we got those mixes, we were even better off, because it sounded like you know, the LP or the cassette or whatever. And we could concentrate and get the camera set up so they were level, so that they were white balanced properly, and the camera operators, you know, when they panned, they wouldn't hit the walls with the handles, and it just made everything so easy, because I knew all the jerry rigging Mike had to do to get the sound, you know, so that it was right. And boy, if you ever want to get a magician, you know, who can take and jerry rig all these different connections and different mixers, and still manage to provide a house mix and a sub mix, Mike Miller was the guy to do it.
At first, I didn't have a real active role in the pop concert, so '84 would have been the first one. They called me down, they being Rick Hartsoe and Dick Perkins, because they were not technical people and they had issues that they just didn't know how to solve. So I came in to assist in that way. And talking to Rick, I at least got an idea of his vision of what he wanted, his oral vision of what he was looking for. And part of the assessment was, okay, what do we have to work with? What do we need? And since I noticed we don't really have everything we need, it was, how do we work around that? And from that point on, it was just a matter of like evolution to try to keep improving upon what we had and how we were doing it.
And I Can't Quit Her.
That was Jay. Jay was playing guitar.
Maybe, well, was there a rhythm guitar then? Because it was somebody, it was...
He wrote the arrangement, and he played the guitar, and in fact the choir bought him a new wah-wah pedal.
Oh, that's right, the choir, right. Ah, that, how cool was that?
Donna would kill you if you don't mention the choir buying him and presenting him before the concert.
Okay.
We'd get tired because we would have to do it over again and do it over again. And then we'd be like, how long is this going to take? But then, you know, once you're out of high school and you think about what he did and think about the perfection, because that's what it was, is we were perfection in those days. And people loved coming to hear us.
So to see them get excited about the pop concert and to see them captured on tape and enjoy the kind of feedback they got, and to see the inclusiveness of it all with not just the choir members, but members of the orchestra and the band, and you know, kids that just played guitars that would wander in and want to play a song. And Hartsoe embraced them all, and that included my video students, and for that we're all the better.
Okay, after a number of years, I don't even remember how many, after a few years of doing pop concert, kids in mixed choir were kind of coming up and saying, hey, how come we can't do that? And the answer was, well, there's not time in our program, because while a cappella is doing pop concert in January and February, you guys are learning fundamentals that they already know. And that's what the training choir, mixed choir, and Russian choir is all about. So what we would have to do was, after spring concert in May, there's always that 5 or 6 weeks with not too much to do. Maybe we could do that. So that's when I decided, okay, give them 4 weeks of training right after spring concert. Do a couple songs from the previous year's pop concert, because there will be some instrumentalists left over, so you don't want to have to start from scratch with them. So we started doing that. 2 or 3 songs. Took about 3-4 weeks to learn them. I was going to do a similar thing with the soloists. I was going to have a solo audition night. Let them do their own thing, because that's what it was. The soloists always did their own work. And so the first time we did it, I taught 2 or 3 songs. We had auditions, and there were, I don't know how many solos, however many in that first one, because I don't remember the year, and I could, you know, investigate the recording, but that's not really crucial. The point is, they got to go on stage. They got exactly the same sound system. In fact, the a cappella people who had learned to set up and take down the sound system, which took 12 to 14 people, they were there for Minipop. They came there on Friday after school, set up the sound, set up the stage, which was about a 4-hour job. The next morning, on Saturday, the choir comes, the instrumentalists come, and we rehearse these 2 or 3 songs. The soloists didn't actually get a chance to rehearse. I told them, the afternoon matinee, which would be at 2 o'clock, is basically our dress rehearsal. And so, come 2 o'clock, there were usually not too many people there, so it was perfect. It was an audience that got you nervous, but it was enough to make you go. So we did a dress rehearsal at 2 o'clock, then we did the concert at 8 o'clock, and that became the first Minipop. Didn't sell tickets for the first time.
I think that this is an opportunity. Well, you had mentioned that the choir had to do it. It was the requirement. But the musicians, you know, I'm sure that they were stepping over each other to try to get that part. And this was an opportunity for them to do it. They were passionate about it. They were motivated to learn the parts. And I think it's great that the music director gave them that opportunity that they wouldn't have already had.
Between Rick and myself was a very kind of casual relationship. I'd stayed in touch with him. He was an important person in my life, and I had continued on, and I told him when I graduated if he needed any charts done. He didn't really have anybody in the wings that sort of had the experience to do this. I'm sure there were people that could do it, but they maybe didn't have the opportunity or hadn't developed it to the point of being able to do complete arrangements for the choir. So I told him I would continue to do this. And then the year after graduation, I just sent him some music, if I remember. That would have been 1975, I guess. So I sent him some music, and he was surprised to get the chart. So I said, here, use this. It'd probably be fun for the kids to do. It kind of started that way. That was the beginning of the total of 33 years that I wound up writing charts for Mr. Hartsoe and for the a cappella choir. And it just kind of went from year to year in different life situations of mine. that was kind of the one constant every year around, around November. I would get a cassette or a list of music that he wanted written out, and I did probably 99% of those songs. There was a couple of them that, for one reason or another, I didn't do, but I pretty much did what he asked me to do. Some of them I probably wouldn't have chosen myself, but as I've mentioned to Rick and to you, Pete, over the years, there's a learning experience for me too, because there's songs that I would not, they weren't in sort of my sort of wheelhouse of the kind of music that I was listening to. But as I listened more and more to them, and I got a taste of what they were doing, I came to appreciate those songs, and it was really educational.
I look at it when it's all printed out, because that way it's easier to, chop the duplicate areas and see what's working and what isn't.
I figured out by looking at your list that in 1983 it was the first one I ever heard that I went to.
Well, that was a very good year. You know why?
You were there?
Well, that's one of the reasons, yeah.
The history of pop concert. You listen to the early songs where we were buying copies that were published, where the music was rearranged into SATB, because there was no concept of singing other than soprano, alto, tenor, bass. It was a choir, and that's the way it was arranged. I did some of those arrangements, and little by little I started realizing that that wasn't really what we wanted to do. And Jay Palmer comes along and gives us an arrangement of Save the Country. And then he gives us an arrangement of Blood, Sweat, and Tears, which only had one singer, but he arranged some choral parts. So once I started realizing that you weren't always going to have a bass part, especially when we started doing things like Chicago and Boston, where everything is in the treble clef. There was no longer a bass part. And so I had to get the concept, instead of soprano, alto, tenor, bass, in 4-part harmony. We just basically said, okay, it's basically 3-part harmony, we'll call it top, middle, bottom.
Working on the music was 87.
87.
And then that one I worked on 5, 6 songs.
That's basically when I think you uttered the famous line, "What am I, chopped liver?" And
What am I, chopped liver? Yes, there you go. That's when I said that. Yeah.
yeah, and that's when he finally realized, because as we were talking about you a lot more in some of these last interviews, and then that's what he said. It was like all of a sudden he realized how underutilized you were, and you were like, well, yeah, come on, and so.
Yeah, I think the first thing I did was it was Blackwater. I wrote that out because it was like
Wow, he is a big part of who I am. I had a lot of wonderful teachers at Don Darrow. We all know them, the Streeters, the Breakvilles, and then Hartsoe. Hartsoe was very strict, but I'm glad he was. The things he did, making us stand in the back and all that kind of stuff, and he held us accountable and wanted us to be serious. And I'm glad he did that, because he basically sort of taught us what life is going to be like once we leave high school. And I used a lot of that after high school. And he was a father, he was a friend, and he was my mentor. And I love him. And he taught me a lot about myself. And I was, believe it or not, pretty shy. And I came out because of that, Yeah. So I thank him for that, and I love him for that. Thank you, Mr. Hartsoe.
So, Pete, you can tell Mr. Hartsoe that what he did at Don Darrow was not only helpful and inspiring to his own students, that he was actually impacting all of us, across town at Kimball High School as well, and giving us the kind of motivation we needed to, even if we had to do it on our own. So, tell him thank you.
And I had to stop, and I had to stop because I was getting choked up. This is the thing, is it brought out an emotion, a genuine, pure emotion in people that were involved in it, and as music does, and when it's honest and it's real, it touches your heart, and that's what it should do.
I don't know exactly how it happened or why I decided that song, but the Aquarius by the Fifth Dimension grabbed my attention somehow or other. And after the first couple of 3 years when we didn't do a closer because the concert was only 7, 8, 9 songs, once we started needing a closing song, Aquarius we tried one time, and from that year on, it just seemed to be the right way. And eventually, Aquarius becomes the song with the glitter ball. At some point in time, somebody in the lighting structure, probably some student that I don't even remember who, said let's hang the glitter ball. So we hang a glitter ball up there, and the Aquarius Let the Sun Shine In. It's two separate songs with a bridge in the middle. So the first part, the ball doesn't move, the lights are on it, and so the auditorium has these spots all over the wall and ceiling, and they're moving just a little bit because the person on the spotlight is moving just a little bit, not even realizing it. And then at the middle section, when the trumpets come in and hit that new groove, that's when the glitter ball starts spinning. Now this is all basically sung in the dark. Everybody has to know everything by memory, of course, instrumentalists and everything. But all the instrumentalists are basically a guitar, a rhythm guitar. There's no lead guitar, bass, piano, drums, and the flute that starts it, playing the 17 notes that I taught to them every year, either by ear or by telling them what the notes are. The part was never written out. And then later on, then the trumpets, who had a 6-bar written out part, the two trumpets, they play the transition, and then the glitter ball rolls, and you can sing the Let the Sun Shine In till the cows come home. You can sing it for a few times through, or sometimes we used to sing it, I don't know, 18, 20 times through until we just wore out. And then at the end, the sun shined in, and the hands go up, and everybody goes crazy.